For this episode, we will examine how wealth has influenced Jackson's culture. I interviewed 4 people for their opinions. Andrew Ellett, the owner and managing broker of Engel & Volker's Jackson Hole. Justin Rositas, an employee at the Virginian Lodge and real estate advisor, also at Engel & Volker's. And Brad and Jen Wolf, the owners of Wolf Auto Dealership. Since he works directly with visitors, I asked Justin's opinion on the pros and cons of tourism.
The pros, it brings money to the town, to the economy. It's great. Local businesses thrive off of tourism. There's so many businesses in town that we really, rely on having the influx of people coming here. The downside, is just a lot, especially in a town like this where, there's not a lot of roads in and out. We don't have a lot of lanes, so lots of traffic. There's tons of people that come from all over the country and all over the world, right? So we're all just trying to make it happen, and everybody's got their own agendas, so it can get a little hectic, and that's just part of living in a touristy town, I guess, right?
And followed that by asking about the influence of the wealthy economy on Jackson's culture.
Others felt it was a lot faster than I did, maybe because they've been here even longer. But I feel like there's been a fundamental shift in the last 2 years, which was caused entirely by COVID. When COVID happened, people, we call them COVID refugees, but they just poured out of cities, whether they were here on a long vacation, or whether they rented a home for a year, or whether they completely relocated and left where they were and bought a home here. There was a huge influx of people. And I would say that many of the people that came were not the people that always dreamed for 10, 20 years of owning a second home one day in their favorite place. They were people that discovered Jackson overnight. They were people that moved here because their best friend did. They didn't know Jackson from any other hole. They came here, they liked it, but they did not try to assimilate. And that is the difference between the last 2 years and all the years preceding. And I feel like it has caused a little bit of a culture clash. I think understanding that if you're going to come into a town in a completely different environment, then maybe you should get to know it. Maybe you should get to know its people and its culture, and bring your own culture, but also assimilate some of the things that make Jackson Hole special. What's happening is not new. It's old news happening to new people. So, but I do think that the pace has increased. I feel like this town is still divided in about 30 big pieces of pie. One is the uber wealthy. Another are kind of the seasoned locals that have been here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then the other third are kind of the transient people, which is what I started out as, hey, let's move here for a summer. Let's move here for a couple years and run the rivers or ski. So there's those sorts of, categories, and sometimes there's a clash. I think how wealth has affected it too is that as more and more people have come in and paid more and more for property, and there's such a small supply of homes, there's such high demand, that it has continued to push people out of the valley.
Well, I think it's created a lot of options for people just because, it is very economically strong. And so there's a lot of things, or, a lot of options for kids. For example, they can go, ski programs. There's just a lot of good things in place where kids can travel. The sports programs are outstanding. And I think a lot of business owners, a lot of people in the area are really generous, and a lot of philanthropy takes place because of it.
I then wanted to know what they have learned the most while working here.
Resiliency. I got into real estate in 2007, right before the market collapsed, part of the Great Recession. So for 4 or 5 years, it was really being resilient and sort of weathering that market, and then seeing it travel up. And then going from being part of a business to being a broker of a business to starting my own business to buying a franchise to weathering COVID and that whole circus the last 2 years to going from 4 to 40 people. So I think a lot of my experience in Jackson has been sort of within the business environment. Like, what does it take to survive here? What does it take to thrive here? What does it take to build a business? What does it take to recruit people, to retain people? Because we mentioned how transient it is. So like, how do you recruit, keep, and retain long-term amazing employees and partners within your business? Like, it's got to be 5 times harder here than most places, right? And perseverance is definitely a word. And I would say that that really goes to the Wyoming culture. I mean, whether you're talking about cattle ranching or running a real estate business or just trying to work 3 jobs in your 20s to basically live here, like it's hard work, it's resiliency. Wyoming really fosters an independent spirit.
The number of tourists that can come through this whole valley, I mean, I don't even know what that number is. I mean, it's like just a huge number, but that, you know, that the parks count, and it's a lot of money that is spent in this area.
I'd say for me,
In a
just
good
how
way.
hard it is for people to survive housing wise. You know, it's really necessary to have a lot of people, you know, to help provide services and things, and just, I guess, how tough housing ends up being for a lot of people, and how often we hear people having to move because housing goes away.
And what life is like?
It's busy. I mean, we go, I think 24/7. It feels like, you know, you're working hard, you're working fast, work hard, you play hard. You know, so I think it's pretty constant. Just there's not a like just chill sit around time, obviously.
And that's a choice. But we just, I don't know, we'd like to be, not just busy, work busy though. You know, we are constantly just out doing stuff to enjoy our time.
And what Justin recommends, both for tourists, but also his personal favorite.
So anything to kind of get out away from, you know, the hustle and bustle of town, and you're just more out in nature. I really encourage all that kind of stuff. I think that's the funnest. I love driving, and so I like getting lost. And, you know, when I first moved out here, I explored the elk refuge and would just go way back in there as far as I could go. You know, if I look at a road that doesn't say private road or don't enter, I mean, even if it does, I'll still know. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I love you never know where some of these back roads take you, and it's fun to talk to the locals, and they'll just say, yeah, this road will go miles back in there. And, you know, I'm just like, I just want to see it.
What the wolves enjoy.
Swimming in the hot springs in the river, not the commercialized one, but getting to walk down the rocky embankment to the Snake River, and only certain times of year, of course. But
Justin enjoys creating videos, photos, and drone work, and I wanted to know why he thought Jackson is a unique place for that.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to do some drone stuff. Like, obviously, I really wish I could fly my drone like around the top of the Grand Teton, but you can't. You know, you can't fly within the national parks, and you have to respect those rules. But, you know, there's tons of places in the backcountry, and what just captivates me is like just how beautiful some of the untouched landscapes really are. And what I love to do, and what I aim to do with my work and my art, is to just offer like a new perspective on, you know, maybe things that we just see every day. And it's part of human nature as we just go on throughout our day. Like, we take a lot of things for granted, and but ever since I come out here, I try to, you know, make it a goal of mine to never take like the scenery for granted. Like, every single day as I'm driving down the road, even if I'm just looking at the butte over here or at Snow King, like I see it every day, but I don't want to ever like not appreciate how beautiful and how lucky I am to be around here. And so what I love to do with photography is just show people, like, you know, this is where I live, and this is like, it's just, you know, locking in a great sunset, you know, or it's, at the end of the day, it's, you know, just like memories for myself as well.
As Andrew has firsthand experience on the influence of taxes on this culture, I was curious to hear his thoughts.
Wyoming is the most tax-friendly environment in the United States. So if you think of other places that are considered tax-friendly, like the state of Florida, like the state of Texas, they have no state income tax, but they also have, you know, 4 or 5 times greater property taxes. Here, it's across the board, either no or low tax, no state income tax, no excise tax, no transaction tax. So very low property taxes. You know, this is the home of the Dynasty Trust, where, you know, your real estate assets can be protected for 999 years. So it's those tax environments that have brought a lot of wealth into this area. And anytime you have wealth pouring in from different areas, from New York, from California, from even from Europe, then you're going to get those people's interpretation of what they think the idyllic Rocky Mountain home looks like, right? So, I think Jackson is changing in a big way, where we're seeing a lot of the people coming into Jackson and spending a great deal of money that also impacts architecture.
He had mentioned a lot on the housing crisis, and since that is directly related to his job, I wanted to know what his opinion on solutions was.
Yes, I think everyone that's elected to the town council and everyone that is elected to the county commission runs on a platform of what they're going to do to solve the housing crisis or provide more housing. And then once elected, they vote it down 9 times out of 10 because of some obscure environmental concern or because of noisy neighbors, or everybody, I feel like, pays lip service to it, but they don't actually move the ball forward. And there are a few exceptions, but I think that's been the issue. Secondly, the few projects that do move forward, I feel like the town and the county needs to use private business, private enterprise to build those, because the government is inept at being able to spearhead developments and keep them under budget. And if you actually allow private businesses to do that, which we're starting to see a little bit more of, then I think you can get more developments. They will be better done. They will be at or under budget, and they will make sense. But that has not been the case very often.
I also asked what the most surprising things were about this community, or who the most interesting people were that they had met here.
And I would have to say it was probably Bill Briggs. He's the first guy to ever ski down the Grand. And I met him over there. He's a regular at the restaurant, the Virginian restaurant. So he's always there every single day. He comes in around probably like 11 or so, stays until they close, and he's a pretty interesting guy. He's got his picture up there in the restaurant, or he's got his picture there, and then they have a signed picture of like the first tracks that he made on the face of the Grand. So I think that's super cool. I mean, that guy's a legend, local celebrity.
I wouldn't say it surprises me anymore, but I think one of the things is how hard it is to live here. And I say that for a variety of reasons. I've been here 20 years, and it's a very transient place. I think many people come here for a few years, maybe they even long to be here for many years, but they can't because of the price of living. The average home right now that's selling in Teton County is just over $4 million. So that's very difficult. It's very difficult to live here, and it's not just homes, although that's the main thing. It's also just the cost of living. I mean, the groceries and eating out and doing all the things that you would normally pay for, let's just say in Omaha would be 3 or 4 times more here. Secondly, it's a harsh environment. Like, you have to be prepared for 6 or 7 months of winter. We're in May right now. We've gotten snow multiple days this month, right? And I just think it's a very transient place, because with those factors and others, it's hard to find your niche here. It's hard to start a career here. And so there's just fewer job opportunities in Jackson than maybe you would see in a suburban or in a metropolitan place. So many people come here for a few years and then they leave, and that's difficult for us because you build relationships and then you see people pass through, and so you become reluctant, I almost want to say, to build relationships, because you kind of think, well, how long are they going to be here? I think that's true of a lot of sort of second home markets, but more so here.
I kind of feel like everybody is. I think everybody has unique gifts and unique things that everybody brings. So I don't know I don't know if I could even eliminate it in like the top 100 because I feel like everybody brings unique offerings.
Right. And just so many different places that we bump elbows with people through our home church that we do, and there's 30 of us, and I just love everyone like our own family, or through our business, and we have 6 employees, and so getting to know their family and like that sphere of influence, and through other churches and community things that I just love to be a part of.
And I feel like everyone has a story, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people travel here from a long ways away to work. So I feel like everybody's got a unique story. So I don't know if I can even dial it down to the top 100, to be honest with you.
Lastly, what are the ways to approach this area as a local or tourist?
I mean, there are a lot of jokes that go around about tourists and some of the things they do and how they drive and silly questions they ask, but I think that's just a release valve for locals who are sometimes frustrated. And I think that we have to be patient because those people that sometimes create traffic jams or frustrations or long hours working in your business are the lifeblood of this town. They are the people that keep Jackson the way it is. They're the ones that provide your income and provide a need for your business. So, I mean, our economy is solely based on tourism, and we have to understand that.
Well, I think at first, you know, everybody visits, they all want to move here because it's so unique. And I think often people move here and they want to try to change it to be like exactly where they came from, which they didn't like as well. So they move here. And I think, you know, a lot can be learned from how awesome it is instead of trying to change it all the time. And I think sometimes the idea is that people are leaving back home, they need to leave back home and really respect and enjoy, you know, the Jackson area for what it is and embrace it.
Really good answer.
While there are beneficial impacts of wealth on our culture, there are many problems with this as well. I believe it necessary that action is taken, specifically on the housing crisis and the price of living in our area. That's all for this episode. Thank you for watching. The rest of the videos are in the playlist I have made. Bye!